have the privilege to invite the eminent panelists to this first consultation session on effective utilization of forensic science. I respectfully invite Dr. Jayaprakash
Shall we
Narayan.
dispense with the names and this invitation to save some more time?
Yeah, okay, sir.
Let's go into the session straight.
Okay, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I request Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan sir to chair the session, and rest of the dignitaries of the dais are welcome to this first consultation seminar. Please be seated. The consultation session is going to start. Please be seated.
Friends, I will take over so that there's no further loss of time. The time now is 1:18. Dr. Gandhi said 1:50, he made a promise. I don't know how we're going to keep that promise. There are 8 speakers here, plus 10 minutes. What I propose is, if the very distinguished members of the panel agree, we'll try and minimize our remarks because we're all preaching to the converted. Come up with some specific points of action, hopefully. And then if there is a possibility, I'm being over-optimistic, I know, give some time to these bright youngsters a chance to ask questions. With that, without further ado, let me congratulate the Truth Labs and Dr. Gandhi and NALSAR for organizing this event. Reinhold Niebuhr said, man's capacity for justice makes democracy possible. But man's inclination to injustice makes democracy necessary. So when you talk about rule of law or inclusive justice or equitable justice or public trust, as Chief Justice Bhuyan said, they're interrelated concepts. We cannot isolate them. We know what's happening in our country. The crimes in India are relatively fewer relative to population. I want us all to understand this. If you take the United States or Britain or some other countries, the crimes are much larger in number. For 100,000 population, much of the OECD countries, we have 5,000 to 6,000 crimes registered, small or big. In India, only about 1,000 are registered and only about 330 or so are relatively of some significance. So it's not that the number of crimes is very high, nor is our civil litigation very high. It is just that we are incredibly inept in handling both. If you take the challenges, I think one of the eminent speakers in the morning talked about the pillars. I think Vice Chancellor Krishna Deva Rao. He talked about the police, I would say forensics, then prosecution, then the procedures, and the judiciary. I would say the lowest hanging fruit is forensics. Therefore, my appeal today is, let's see if we can build a consensus first and look at a very tangible, achievable program of action to make at least forensics available in our crime investigation and in civil cases too. It's not a very big ambition. It's not about transforming rule of law. That's a much bigger ambition. I don't have any great expectation that with one fell swoop we will transform rule of law in India. It will take time and effort. But I see no serious impediment in transforming the forensics of India. So with that perspective, let me make just a few comments. I don't know if many of you remember the Disha case in Hyderabad in 2019. Somebody mentioned today the pressure on the police forces to indulge in false encounters, killing people in captivity to render rough and ready justice or to lynch people, is mounting. If we had genuine justice, speedy and efficient, backed by strong forensics, a case like this should have been decided. I have no regret at all that somebody is hanged in a heinous case like that. But that lynching took place without due process, something that should really perturb all of us. Not because somebody is hanged, but because If that is allowed in that form, any one of us could be victim tomorrow. That's the context in which forensics is going to be incredibly important, along with other changes in the justice system. Some years ago, if you remember, in 2018, in Gurugram, in Haryana, in the outskirts of Delhi, a bus conductor, I think, or bus driver called Ashok Kumar, he confessed to a crime of killing a senior student in the school because he was brutally tortured. He actually confessed. Luckily for the chap, the CBI investigated and actually showed that a senior student was guilty of murder, and Ashok Kumar was exonerated. I don't think we need to go far to understand the incredible importance of genuine evidence and forensics. As the eminent jurist today talked about it, in a large number of cases, convictions are extracted, even in capital offense cases, through coercion. If my numbers are right, about 318 cases, the people who are convicted of murderers were released by the courts based on DNA evidence in this country in the past few years. That should set the alarm bells ringing. Not only is the conviction rate very low, as another eminent jurist said today, 30%, he said actually minus coerced confessions, I think the conviction rate in India is only about 10 to 15%. I think the Chief Justice talked about 30%. And if in those convictions, there is so much of miscarriage of justice, we should be seriously worried about it. I remember vividly Sunanda Pushkar case. I don't care whether there was a crime committed or not. I'm not into that. But in the capital city of Delhi, in one of the most notorious cases, much talked about in the media, etc., the DNA analysis took 1 full year. That should really put us to shame in the 21st century. I'm told about 7 to 8 lakh cases are pending for forensic opinion in India at a point of time. 7 to 8 lakh cases. And only 10 to 12% of the criminal cases, they are referred to forensic labs for analysis or their opinion. And of that, 7 to 8 lakh cases pending. Justice Venkatachalaya talked about 37 laboratories in India as opposed to 409 in the United States. The total DNA analysis in India is about 20,000 samples per year. In the US, 1/4 of our population. The total analysis is roughly 1.2 million a year. Typically, one case, a criminal case or some other case, requires 6 samples to be analyzed on an average. That means you're only dealing with about 3,300 cases in a country where there are 40,000 capital offenses registered and tried per year. Plus, there are many more other offenses of heinous kind which require serious forensic analysis. So the numbers are disgraceful. But the good news is we can set it right pretty easily. As I said, it's a low-hanging fruit. Dr. Gandhi himself came up with a template as to what can be done in terms of building forensic infrastructure. Resources, to my judgment, are not a problem. While in general, the rule of law apparatus in India spends very little, only 0.76% of GDP, as opposed to the norm in many of the OECD and civilized countries about 2.5%, about 2% or thereabout. But even 0.76% is a substantial sum. And the amount required for a first-rate forensic infrastructure in the country, every circle having a kit, every SDP or subdivisional office having a mobile vehicle for forensic analysis, every big city having a regional laboratory, every district having a district forensic laboratory, and every state having a headquarter laboratory of reasonable standard. My back-of-the-envelope calculation shows that we require only about a 5,000 crore investment one time, capital investment, and an equal amount annually to run these institutions. It's not an incredible amount. I know we're stressed for budget. I'm not one of those seeking more and more money from the exchequer. It's not possible. But when you're spending about 2 lakh crores, 2 trillion rupees on on crime investigation and justice system, which is inadequate. As I said before, it's only 0.76% of the GDP. But in that, only 3% is required to have a first-rate forensic establishment in the country. If the Indian political and governance system says we cannot summon even that much of money, 5,000 crores is peanuts. No, a chief minister these days signs with the left hand, that kind of a check. Because now profligacy today, we are going for programs worth billions of rupees without a second thought. So for something as incredibly important as this low-hanging fruit, if you can't invest about 5,000-6,000 crores for the whole country per annum, then I think our commitment to democracy and justice and rule of law is very questionable. I think this is the voice we have to raise. I think the time is right. We can make that happen. And with that, while money and resources and technology are important, we obviously have to not only build infrastructure, but personnel training. I think we only have over 3,000 forensic experts available in all the forensic laboratories of India. My back-of-the-envelope calculation shows at least 30,000 are required. But India manufactures graduates, like matchboxes. As long as the quality is assured, the numbers are not going to be a problem. If some of the leading universities and medical schools, they actually take this up seriously, not merely manufacturing degrees, I think we can easily produce 30, 40,000 people and replenish the attrition with new experts as required. It's not really a big problem for the country at all. But more important is systems and protocols, from chain of custody to guaranteeing the quality of reporting, because in a culture of mistrust and rampant abuse of power, endemic abuse of power and arbitrariness in the country, at least this wing, police, let's see how much we can do. Some of us are fighting very hard to at least make sure that crimes of a certain magnitude, that crime investigation is straight from the vagaries of politics. There are ways of doing it. That may or may not happen immediately because the political economic considerations, they make it very difficult in the short term, because the whole political system today thrives on abuse of the rule of law process, let me say, without fear of too much of contradiction. But forensics, isolating that as a technical issue, because very few issues can be solved by technology alone and infrastructure alone. Others require change of attitude. This is a science and technology issue. It's relatively easy. We can actually create an island of excellence, an oasis, in this otherwise bleak scenario of crime investigation and justice system. And we, of course, have to ensure autonomy. I don't think the judiciary will be very kind to the forensic laboratories if they are seen to be under the thumb of the police, who are in turn seen to be under the thumb of the political executive in the country. Therefore, at least this branch, if we can make it independent and functioning with adequate systems of accountability, and if we take care of some of the judicial things, some of the legal things, I think Justice Venkatram Reddy talked about the DNA technology and regulation bill of 2019. Certainly, there are certain concerns raised by some people, but we can reconcile, because after all, we're not the first country in the world doing this. Much of the world is following DNA analysis, etc. So we can follow the best practices of the rest of the world without taking too much time. And we already have an IT Act of 2008, which replaces the Section 45 of the Evidence Act, but it's not operational yet, because we have not framed the rules and procedures for that. And we probably require a forensic regulatory authority to make sure that the standards are met. But none of this is costing money. It requires some bit of not even serious political will, but administrative will and judicial will. And I hope we can summon these from this forum today. We have the DGP here, from the current DGP of Telangana state. We have eminent jurists here. We have men and women of great consequence whose words are listened to with great respect and non-partisan manner across the country. Let us at least take this small little thing which can bite and chew. We may not be able to do the big thing overnight. And I'm an optimist. And I believe the impossible best sometimes is the enemy of the possible good. And if you know exactly what to aim for, we'll get it usually, if you're determined about it. So my appeal is, let today's seminar and the event in the morning of all these August luminaries be of value in making at least one thing happen, namely a good quality forensic infrastructure that actually works. Even if the rest of the criminal justice system and justice system takes some more time to fix, it may take another decade or more. But let's at least do this much. With these words, may I now invite eminent jurist and a great thinker and my great friend, Justice Raghuram, to make his observations.
I think they just want to have the floral bouquets offered to all the so it's okay.
If you do it in 5 seconds, together.
5 seconds. Yes.
Together.
Because they're
Everybody
they're calling
at one
me.
go.
They're calling me.
Because remember, kids, time is the most precious asset. Not money, not physical infrastructure, not nothing. Time. Okay. So.
Thank you. Thank you.
My friend Bhavani Prasad must take some of the blame for this hurry. Okay, go on. No, nothing.
I won't take much time. In fact, I won't take any time at all. We have on this panel, we have had an administrator of great eminence, experience and repute, who is also a political scientist and a student, very ardent student of democracy, Dr. Jayaprakash Narayan, share his thoughts with you. We have forensic pathologists, we have forensic scientists, we have policemen who've had amongst them very vibrant experience in the administration of justice. I'll share just a thought that one elderly semi-literate relative of mine shared with me. He said in Telugu, which I'll translate into English, he said, "Sir, criminal law in India is a privilege. It's not a right. You can buy it." And another administrator who was in the drafting business in the state, he told me that, sir, earlier they used to draft the legislation, and then by way of acceptance quarterly, they used to draft an exemption clause also in case of unforeseen circumstances. Today, the exemption clause is first drafted because that is where the power and privilege goes. So, in the administration of justice, it is not the defect of the law. In fact, we believe both in pharmacology as well as in social curatives to administer more and more of the failed medicine, because it's greenfielding everybody. The pharma industry prospers, the doctors prosper, everybody prospers. So we also in the law administration keep on believing in multiplication. This was said of the National Law Universities also. Bangalore was a great experiment, then came NALSAR, then a few others, and Justice Lalit is associated with a few now. It's become a passing of action. They have created, in some states have 3 national law schools. Some states have 5 national law schools. And professors and teachers, you cannot manufacture with as much speed as you can manufacture real estate, which is already available. You just put up a few structures if you have the money. Same goes with forensic laboratories. Where do you find men who are competent and able to administer, run? Where do you get the experts? Sometimes challenges are there, and therefore you need to have protocols. I was talking to the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in Bhopal, where we used to send judges from other countries who used to come for watching autopsies. Then we found that the AIIMS autopsy is more in demand because they have certain protocols where in the autopsy room there is no landline and no mobile phones are allowed. So that is where the maximum manipulation of the report takes place, and everything is video captured, entire process of autopsy. Not that it is foolproof, but it goes a long distance in the marshalling of evidence. Today morning, an eminent speaker spoke about the preservation of the crime scene. When I was associated with judicial training at Bhopal, I realized that there are certain emerging areas which also need to be, the judges need to be familiarized with. And forensic science, cybercrime analysis, all these I thought were very relevant topics. Then I started reading up. I introduced a few sessions and then I started reading up. I realized that forensic science latest developments in the world are yet to catch up with 50 or 60 disciplines which are emerging in other areas of human cognitive sciences, faculties. Quantum mechanics and quantum physics, for instance, has brought about tremendous advances in particulate matter, subatomic areas, which contribute ultimately to pathologies, which contribute ultimately to evidence. Then you have forensic biology, you have forensic paleontology, you have radiocarbon dating, you have a whole lot of other disciplines, which even the most the advanced economies and the criminal law administration in those countries is just now thinking of implementing. Just the other day, Siddharth Mukherjee, one of our eminent Indian born persons, has come up with his third scintillating book, The Call of the Cell, where he says that, while the DNA is inanimate, the cell is the only living basic unit of life. And therefore, while DNA is a carrier, it's an inanimate carrier of information, the cell becomes very important. And when you come to the cell, you come to the atomic level, then you come to the particulate level. It is areas of those developments in the other areas like the physics, biology, and other areas which are fertilizing the development and evolution of forensic science. All these are areas where academic institutions like yours, which have the cognitive infrastructure, apart from the physical infrastructure, which is quite inspiring and inviting to deal with. And you need a think tank. Democracy is more reflective than reactive. Today, in the judiciary, having spent quite a time here, with our volumes, we are running a fast food center. We are not doing much of reflection. It's not possible with these numbers. At least academia like you should stay away from this crunching of numbers and be more reflective. It's not how many graduates you produce, how many first classes you produce. Today, India somehow romances percentages, 99%, 200%. 100% in English is will be shocking to Milton and Shakespeare also, but we manage in our academia to get 100% in English. I won't take more of your time. We have real experts talking about it. I only say that I have concerns. Some of my concerns have been expressed in the morning session. I have much more deeper concerns. We have much more to do, but even that little bit which is already established in the rest of the world, not merely in the top economies, but even in emerging economies like us, is not being done here. Dr. Jayaprakash says that budget is not a problem, funding is not a problem. For me, it's not the funding that's problem. The funding is possible, infrastructure is possible. Where do you get the human resource that runs these things? So, the Baker Street irregulars can't do the job. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Raghuram. I think we all agree that our universities, most of them are in terminal decline. Undergraduate courses are generally dead in most of India. Therefore, you have to go to centers of excellence like this, or IITs and a few reputed medical schools and all that. There's a deeper tragedy of higher education. But if there is an economic need in the society, if there's a market demand, if there's political will, I think we have the capacity to produce 30, 40,000 experts. There are daunting problems, but we cannot allow them to impede our progress in achieving what is necessary. So I fully recognize the challenge, but I believe it's not an insurmountable challenge. May I now request a co-chair, Shri Prashant Kumar, who came all the way from Delhi, the Bar Association of India president. And not only your remarks here, but your very strong collective will in persuading the governments, both the political and the bureaucratic part of the government, to really pursue the forensics as a science in aid of civil and criminal justice.
Thank you, Dr. Jayaprakash. You have already given, what kind of outlay is required, how, we can take the utilization in terms of capacity of forensic services to the next level, how it is to be augmented. But, I'm coming from the user point of view. I represent the bar. And that is where also the problem lies. And the challenge also. See, when we talk about the super refined disciplines of forensic, they have their own place. But, the courts will be able to apply their mind to ticklish cases when they are deburdened from the drudgery of routine cases, which fill up the bulk part of the docket. And now, especially in the criminal cases, one are the high crimes, the others are complaint cases, private complaint cases, and which, magistrate on the complaint can order a trial or order an investigation, or under 156(3). Then with the new things which are coming in, now everybody, even in a domestic violence case, wants to use a video recording, wants to have some phone recording evidence. These are the basis of lodging complaints. And then there are grievances that the police is not investigating. They go to court. And these evidences are to be looked at a very later stage if these culminate into a trial or a proceeding in the court. Then also a lot of financial crimes are increasing. We have a branch of cases which are mix of criminal and financial aspects, like willful defaulter cases, banking fraud cases, where the mandate of the law and RBI circular is to send these cases to investigating agencies, to CBI and all. Now, at the base of it, the trigger is a forensic report. Forensic capacity is, it is just given to Ernst & Young and all these accounting firms. Now, even to defend those cases, take them further, both in the agencies and also in the legal profession, in terms of advice. There is no capacity. It is not even understood that for a forensic report, once it is presented, its complication when you can assail it and all is, another aspect. But a forensic report, the very process of having a financial forensic report, where you give these reports without understanding the business aspect of the decision making, you have not followed the protocols, and in isolation, you come with a report with 10 riders, which ultimately is not going to have any legal significance in the long run. So the major point is, as I say, understanding forensics, utilizing forensics, making some kind of procedural rules which are also in the domain of the court as practice rules. Some of them need not be coming through a very long drawn process of amendment to the law and other things. Some part of it can be handled as practice rules that, you can, as if you are giving a audio as a basis of your complaint, then its transcription and certification forensically that this is an audio which is, not tempered, is a genuine thing, will help the investigating agencies to register a case, proceed with it. So, we start from threshold and take this movement right to the trial stage. Now, Chief Justice Lalit had pointed out that at trial stage, the defense comes later on in our adversarial process. And there is a difference between even the summons cases and warrant cases. In warrant cases, there can be a discharge after framing of charges. And now new legislations like Black Money Act have provisions which say this is punishable from 6 months to 7 years, Section 50. Now, where it will fall? Then Section 51 is 3 to 7 years. These are all new legislations which are coming in, where, the thought relating to criminal processes, how they are going to be there is just not there. The basic foundations of how criminal law proceeds, how the procedure takes place is not there. Then Section 91, in which the court has a power either on the application of this thing to ask prosecution or any other authority to produce an evidence. So whether that Section 91 can be utilized or expanded at an initial stage when the summons have been served and cognizance has been taken, it is easier in the warrants case, in summons case or ambiguous cases. Again, there is a question mark. So if these are the nut bolts, if some of these nut bolts are addressed, Section 138, check bounce cases, one of the routine defenses is signature are forged. So whether a complainant also gets a certificate as a beginning that the signature is genuine, these are small costs involved and the claims are monetary. And if these processes, some of them, we can work with Truth Labs, we can work with NALSAR, we can make a group to make nut and bolt recommendations, where firstly we take care of the docket explosion type of cases, where forensic evidence, very basic level forensic evidence can address the docket level cases. Also at the investigation stage, how to start the investigation, whether it can be preempted. If you expect the police to do everything, even in the domains they don't have understanding or they don't have capacity to investigate, the kind of peculiar case you have, suppose you have a case of fraud. Now, we had a peculiar case in which a huge building project, the short supply of concrete was there, and it was massive short supply. So it was a case of fraud, not just a breach of contract. So how to measure that in the premises, the trucks are coming, the numbers, the photo recorded evidence, this thing and all. If you go to police and simply make a complaint, it will go nowhere. But if you have the whole incoming, outgoing of the trucks, the time, the weight measure scales, all analysis, and some sort of a certification of that, then you have a case made out, which then police can take forward. So according to me, it is not just creating the forensic experts, that is one side. It is also collaborating with the legal profession, having the awareness of forensics, and having joint workshops that how you can help your clients, how you can take help from forensics to take your cases forward, both on the civil and criminal aspect. And as far as international is concerned, I agree with the Justice Raghuram. In 2009, we made a presentation to Scotland Yard and City of London Police. They had only 3 financial forensic experts and no capacity to look at any fraud complaint below £1 million. So we proposed something on a public partnership model with India, which could, as you have said, ramp up the training facility, create the professionals, because it required internationally when the flight of money you have to stop. Because if the money vanishes, it goes through the loops, you can do nothing. If you are able to generate real-time inputs for each jurisdiction through collaboration, which becomes an actionable input in that jurisdiction, where the flight of money has taken place, this has happened, these things could move. Now, these are very, very things which are in the realm of possibility with the jump in computing capacities. It requires a multidisciplinary approach. Perhaps in 2009, it was too radical. And in India, we needed the cooperation of the agencies here, but we could not move past the Home Ministry bureaucracy. We had the top IT firm also from India. We could have created an Infosys in the field of forensic investigations and financial frauds. And the UK banks were ready to pay 20% of 256 billion pounds, which were being lost to frauds. That any recovery, this process you create 20%, and then they could add EU and others to that. So there are various possibilities. It is not just, we have to look at the government. Once we are able to ourselves understand, institutions like NALSAR create the capacity building courses and all, the sky is the limit, but somebody has to take being the champion, the leadership. And I think we should all support Dr. Gandhi and NALSA to take this forward, replicate it elsewhere, and bring in more awareness and try to collaborate with the police, with the bar. And as Bar Association President, I offer that collaboration. We can do it at various high court bars and all, and take this forward. It will take shape gradually, but I think if we begin now, we'll be able to address multiple, scenarios, including the pendency of cases and all, by working on very, very small, apparently insignificant issues, but which can have very long-term and massive repercussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Prashantji, for that very insightful practitioner's perspective. Oftentimes, it's the small things that make a huge impact. Now, smallpox vaccine was known for over a century. But until a small little thing called biforked needle was invented to administer the vaccine, we could not eradicate smallpox. I think it's a very wise perspective. And the 2 points broadly he made, that technology is necessary, but wisdom is vital. Technology is no substitute to wisdom and insights. And the second point, it's not merely a moral imperative to have a functional criminal justice system backed by strong forensics. It's an economic necessity. In a country where every month there are 6 billion UPI transactions. In a year, there are about 72 or 75 billion. The finance minister mentioned something like 120 trillion rupees transferred in 1 year. Obviously, cybercrime and all kinds of things are inevitable. Even if you assume 1% is going that way. And the recent convulsions in the stock market, without going to specifics, it is an issue of public trust. It's an issue of effective enforcement of rule of law. If we think it's merely a moral issue, it's not related to economic growth, I think we're completely mistaken. And that's the point we have to make, the point that Prashantji made repeatedly and publicly, that economic growth demands a modicum, if not perfect, a modicum of rule of law backed by strong evidence and forensics. The second issue why we have to address this is, with increasing urbanization, social controls are going to disappear in personal lives. India has been lucky so far because of strong families. Crime has been largely under check, with no disrespect to the exceptional police officers here. It's not the police forces that are controlling crime in India. It's the families. It's the social system, but that will not last long. With urbanization and impersonal lives, the social controls collapse. Crime is going to rise. As opposed to a very small number relative to the rest of the world, Indian crime is going to grow dramatically. And unless our law enforcement machinery, investigative system, and forensics match the necessity, we'll be in a deep, deep crisis. And our laws sometimes are extremely progressive and very, very ambitious. Like I think the sexual assault, the law mandates there shall be forensic evidence. In a country with 35,000 rapes registered every year, you require at least 200,000 samples to be tested. If you're testing only 20,000 samples a year, what rubbish is that? What is the meaning of this law? So it is self-evident. I think we have to really make a very compelling case, and I'm delighted that the Bar Association of India is very much on board under the enthusiastic leadership of Mr. Prashant Kumar, and I'm sure will make a huge difference. May I now invite Sri Anjane Reddy, one of our most thoughtful officials. We are very privileged to have exceptionally thoughtful police leaders from Sri P.S. Ramohan Rao to Sri Anjane Reddy to Kamal Kumar to Umapati, and they really see what's happening in crime investigation. Sri Anjane.
Let me come to the bolts and nuts of the problem. Much has been said, the need for improving forensic sciences. I would like to start with this and how much of money we are spending on FSLs. If you take the police budget as a unit, we are spending less than 0.5% of the police budget. Less than half, maybe around 0.3%. 0.3%. So if you stop strengthening the police department for 1 year, you save enormous amount of money. This money can be spent on forensic science establishments and also our prosecution systems. Both are in a mess. Prosecution systems are in a great mess. Forensic sciences are another great mess. 1 year, if you please stop spending so much of money on police will always get money in course of time. Let that money be diverted for forensic science and prosecution. What's the good of having wonderful police force when you don't have good enough prosecutors, when you do not have adequate scientific evidence? Second point is, according to broad calculations, even if you increase the number of forensic personnel fourfold, as it is fourfold also, still it might not redeem the situation. The situation is so bad. Another interesting, important point is these FSLs are not autonomous. They are subordinated to the police department. It makes no sense. It should be independent of the police department. It should be maybe accountable to the Home Ministry, Home Department, or whatever it is, but it should not be part of the police department. Telangana has a distinction of having police officer as director of FSL for the last 5 years. That is an additional. He's holding additional charge, I am told. She's not even full-time director. So most of the FSLs are not run by professionals. They're run by police officers, which in fact, reduces the esteem of the people working there. Their morale is low. They feel there is no one to look after their interests. Another very important issue is the forensic laboratory, not only forensic laboratories, it is scattered now. You have forensic laboratories, your fingerprint bureau, then you have, what is that, question documents examiner, and no one to supervise them. All of them should be brought under one umbrella, as forensic sciences umbrella. We should not call it no longer forensic science laboratory. It should be called a Department of Forensic Sciences, and there should be a commissioner overseeing the functioning of all these things and bringing about better coordination. This is the situation today. Now, how do we develop this manpower? Well, I have some suggestions here. Institutions like NALSAR certainly can run postgraduate courses. All central universities may be asked to run postgraduate courses in forensic sciences. Diploma or degree courses. It is possible for Government of India to do that. It doesn't take much money. In fact, Sagar University was the first university to start a course. We both studied in Sagar, both Gandhi and I. That was the first university to have a Department of Forensic Sciences. That is a central university now. Same thing can be replicated in all central universities and law institutions, centers of excellence like NALSAR. Then apart from strengthening government FSLs, laboratories, my suggestion is let autonomous institutions like central universities, national laboratories also have a wing for forensic analysis. For example, we have CCMB here. They have been doing remarkable work. We have many other institutions, national laboratories out there in Hyderabad. They can also have their own forensic wings, and matters can be referred to them. It need not be all the time to the forensic science laboratories. This can be done. Then today, there is no definition of expert under the Evidence Act. Anybody can call himself an expert and go on evidence in a court of law. There should be some way of recognizing experts, notifying them as expert under the law. That is not there. The law needs to be amended. Who is an expert and who is not an expert should be. Otherwise, they both go to the court and then they question each other's credentials, waste court's time, create all kinds of problems. Well-established public sector undertakings like banks, insurance companies, professional bodies like NASCOM, these people should be asked to start their own autonomous non-profit, Section 8 of company law, non-profit companies to run certified forensic establishments of their own. Why should these people send everything to the forensic science laboratories? They have enough money. They can have their own institution. It can be, they can be defined as experts, and they can go to the court and give evidence. And I would request you to read a book written by his experience in the court, Dr. Lalji Singh. Dr. Lalji Singh. It's a very interesting, small little booklet. My experience with the Indian judiciary, he wrote a thing, and then he said how he as a scientist, a top scientist in the country, one of the CCMB imparted directors, how he felt harassed and humiliated in a court of law when he went to give evidence. What I'm suggesting is these institutions should establish their own laboratories, their own, and then they can refer their matters to that. Particularly banks have a lot of money, insurance companies have a lot of money. Then other NASCOM, now these people have a lot of money. Let them have their own institutions and let them be recognized as forensic science institutions so that, workload can be, some of it can be shifted to them. Now, what is the future of forensic science? Forensics now, what should be done now? Most important, all these labs should be turned into forensic departments headed by a commissioner of forensic sciences in every government. And this commissioner should coordinate the activities of fingerprint bureau, forensic science, and question documents, whatever other things are concerned. Today, that kind of the government they should be autonomous and they should be accountable to law. Government should only have some administrative access with them, nothing more than that. They don't have, today we don't have cyber resource centers. As you said, enormous amount of money is being mulcted every day, crores of rupees, and cases are coming to the police and police said we can't do anything about it. Yes, preventive strategies are important for this. And there is no agency today to study the type of cybercrime that is taking place, how to prevent this cybercrime. There is no agency today. So we need to have a wing which deals with cyber, I call it cyber resource wing, in all these laboratories so that they can develop this preventive strategies and assist the investigation also wherever it is required. The director of forensic science department, there should be no inbreeding in forensic science department. Assistant director become deputy director become director. No. Anybody with 20 years of experience as an expert should be able to become director of FSL. It can be advertised and the best person available can be selected. A forensic expert should be, he should do his postgraduate course, postgraduate diploma or degree course in forensic science. Then alone, he should be recognized as an expert. Necessary amendments in law should be brought in to define who is an expert in respect of forensic sciences. Those having a degree in forensic science alone should be recognized as an expert. Government should be authorized to notify a person as an expert. Today, there is no such thing. But all kinds of people go to the court and claim they are experts and waste court's time and our time. Now, forensic medicine should be organized into a separate department. I've been writing about this for a long time. Forensic medicine is not a separate department. And it's like a poor cousin of other departments in the medical services. It should be a separate department with its own hierarchy of professionals down to the divisional level. That's also very important. Most important thing is forensic science should be part of the training of the syllabi of not only police officers, but prosecutors and judicial officers also. In fact, police officers are trained in forensic science, whereas the prosecutors are not trained at all. Judicial officers, they know even less than that. It is necessary, this should be a part of your induction training. AP maybe not in all other places. 2 weeks. It will not do, sir. It requires much longer.
Sir, one more thing, sir. After your guidance, 6 full-time faculties there only in India,
Police Academy.
only in AP Police Academy.
Yeah.
Forensic medicine and forensic science, 2 weeks course for in-service police officers were introduced when Sri Anjaney Reddy Garu was the director of AP Police Academy. That is only for the in-service refresher course. Induction training, it is a 1-year course is there, that is coming.
Sir, the induction of it's a mandatory course. After sub-inspector gets trained, it's a mandatory 15 days mandatory course. Anjaney Reddy sir has introduced.
Magistrates and public prosecutors we have introduced it,
Yes.
not for magistrates.
No, Ministers also, first 3 courses we have done, sir, before Police Academy.
In Judicial Academy, they are conducting for
Not
the
being done in
magistrates,
other
both for
states.
in-service and in-service.
It's limited, whatever little is being done in Andhra Pradesh is one
No, I have only 1 or 2 points more.
Okay, maybe.
There should
please.
be a provision in law for the investigating officer or the complainant to ask for a second opinion. You should not be bound by the opinion given by the government FSL. I should be allowed, and I should be, I should have that. I can make a request. You please send it to some other laboratory, not of my choice, but something other than what is there.
Yes.
So, as in respect of DNA, in other identified areas, forensic evidence should be accepted as substantive evidence and not corroborative evidence only. You identify those areas where it can be substantive evidence, and where written opinion can be accepted as evidence without these people going to the court and wasting their time, and they're feeling harassed also. So in what areas, written opinion of forensic science laboratory can be accepted as evidence? In what areas it can be accepted as substantive evidence and not mere corroborative evidence? This also law should be amended. There's a lot to be done in law, and a lot more, so far nothing much has been done. Unless we do all that and take a comprehensive view of the whole thing, things will not improve much.
Thank you from a practitioner's experience. No, one thing that particularly attracted my attention is this public-private partnership. While we must ensure the integrity of the process and the credibility, there's no reason to believe that government should own everything. And Truth Labs actually established that. I think we are very lucky that the template is already created. And therefore, some kind of forensic regulatory authority,
Yes.
which can maintain standards and accredit these institutions, because you can't simply go to any self-appointed expert. No court can accept that.
So, forensic scientists who hold a diploma and with an experience of 10 years in recognized labs may be encouraged to run their own establishments relating to their domain experience. Government would issue a notification recognizing them as experts. If this is done, some of the load can be
Absolutely.
shifted.
Thank you. Before we go to other police senior officials, Professor M. Narayan Reddy, a teacher of forensic medicine, one of his namesake, K.S. Narayan Reddy, wrote a textbook of forensic medicine, which my generation studied. I don't know if
Yes,
it's in circulation.
well-known.
So, Professor Narayan Reddy.
Thank you, sir. First, I was contacted on 29th April 2013 by Sri K. Ratnakishore, the Principal Secretary for Health and Family Welfare, who has to retire on the next day, seeking my assistance to control the corruption, indiscipline, and irregularity in the departments of forensic medicine and casualty departments that are dealing with the medico-legal work. I told him, I was annoyed for receiving that. I asked him, when we were not doing anything, did not do anything to control these things, how can we control this after retirement? Because I retired in September 2011 and he was retiring in April 2013. Then he told his problems. That is true. Unless until the corruption in these two departments is eradication is impossible. Corruption and crime cannot be eradicated. They can only be controlled. People are not. Sir, majority are thinking that doctors are not joining forensic medicine because they are not liking the postmortem work. That is absolutely incorrect. The reason we are not liking is I don't want to get the bad name, stigma of being a corrupt doctor. For me, that is more dangerous than the money that I am going to get. This is happening. You take as a challenge anyone here. Visit either Usmania General Hospital or Gandhi Hospital to know the medical legal work. Go to the record section and ask them to the boon certificate bulk they write. There you will get only the name of the person and the IP number, OP number, MLC number, etc. OP number, MLC number. The rest is blank. How are you going to fill up it? Whenever the police come for the wound certificate, they go to the patient who was examined on that day, get the OP ticket from him to write this. These are the wound certificates we are dealing with. Similar is the case of forensic medicine. There are many forensic medicine experts who, without even going nearer to the dead body, writing. Leave that. That has to be completed. And another thing is, there are doctors who are feeling that they are not accountable. In one case, they wrote an injury on the top of the head. To convert it as actually an accidental death of sexual asphyxia, in my view. And they wrote that made two innocent persons to be implicated as accused, and they stood before the court for several. One of the that victim is here only in this gathering. I don't want to name him. This is what is happening. And other cases, how they give the opinion, the dead body was found in the lake in Madras. And after 8 days of missing, the body floated onto the surface of the water. Immediately, the Madras High Court, 3-member bench constituted three doctors, one from the head of the departments of 2 government medical colleges and one from the private medical college to conduct the postmortem examination. And the investigation itself was transferred to CBI. First, CBI Madras person, the Joint Commissioner of Police, he recorded the statement of the team leader. He said that after the death, the body was kept outside for 1 day. Afterwards, it was brought and thrown into the water. It was a cutthroat injury. And next, the case was transferred to Delhi branch of CBI. There, when the DSP was conducting, he said that he was sitting on the bank of that water and he slit his neck like this and fell into the water. If it slips, the windpipe is non-collapsible tube. Immediately the water must enter. It was not there. And earlier statement, it was there outside. How could it come and jump into the water after death? This is all because of non-accountability, not because of absence of the knowledge. In another case in Delhi, the door was bolted from inside. The girl was sleeping position like this. There is a ligature mark here with the charger wire. The portion that is connected to the electric board is tied to the leg of the table on the head side, it is at a lower position. The mark is clear. There, the doctor said that it is a hanging suicide. One need not know the subject. What is meant by hanging? There might be something tied in this and how. In the same case, there were seminal stains. And again, if it is a suicide, how could she cover the lower portion with one blanket and the upper portion with another blanket after death? Suicidal hanging. It is all due to non-accountability. And another expert said, he was a joint director of Regional Forensic Science Laboratory attached to the Forensic Department of Bhopal Government Medical College. There he said that the semen that was present due to the previous intercourses that came out after death and stained not only the underwear, but also both the blankets. Okay, I can agree. It won't come out because vagina doesn't have the contracting walls on it through eject out. And how can the same semen stain the bedsheet here, which was on the upper part of the body? These are all going. And these are the things, yes. And why I obtained the information from the KNR University of Health Sciences regarding how many doctors have registered to do the PG course in forensic medicine during the academic years 1667, 16, 17, 17, 18, and 18, 19. So here, for all the 3 years together in Kakatiya Medical College at the time, 9 seats were there, 3 per annum. Not a single candidate registered. In 2 private medical colleges, nobody registered. In Gandhi Medical College, 5 into 3, for 15 seats, only 1 candidate come. And in Usmania, 10 into 3, 30, only 9 candidates joined during this period. Why they did not join? Not due to not liking. They don't want to get the stigma. Another stigma that we are getting is we are selling the dead bodies to the private medical colleges to make money. Who is responsible for it? Everybody that comes to the mortuary and leaves the mortuary must be monitored by the civil surgeon, resident medical officer, RMO we call. If that is maintained, not a single body can leave the mortuary unaccountably. And now, earlier, the body's rate was fixed 15,000 per body. At that time, when I was 10 years, 2 months as head of the Department of Forensic Medicine at Usmania, I verified the rule position. When it was the duty of the RMO, I said that entire money must go to the hospital because we are selling the destitute bodies. These are not unknown bodies, sir. These are unclaimed bodies. The poor people who bring their relatives for treatment in the Usmania General Hospital or Gandhi Hospital, not having the money to take them, they live there and go. And even they won't inform, they run away. That is what is happening. And I told them, each paisa must go to the care of the poor people because the government hospitals are visited only the poor and the poorest of the poor. By that, during my period, the Usmania General Hospital got 3 crores 45 lakhs for the patient care. Now, with 16th January 2015, the government of Telangana fixed the rate of the dead body as 60,000. And organs of the dead body which are not to be sold, it is against the organ trade, illegal organ trade. Government itself promoted 5,000 rupees per organ. These are going unchecked. I am telling this bluntly because the chief justice job is here. Taking this.
Thank you.
Sir, then how to solve some problems, sir? We, forensic medicine casualty is part of the forensic medicine. If I am allowed to claim that I am a professor of forensic medicine of Usmania Medical College and Usmania General Hospital, and also the chief casualty medical officer, I will join because I want an apron and a stethoscope. Very simple to solve the question, sir. But the problem is this end. And another thing, I don't want to add anything to our senior and my well-wisher Anjaneyya Reddy garu said that there must be supervision on our work and there must be solved why we are not joining, and corrupt people must be punished in time. In the departmental inquiry, the rule positions are 1 minute only. Departmental rules are clear that they say that whenever there is a complaint against the government officer, if the number of witnesses to be examined, number of records to be verified are 10 or less than 10, the inquiry must be completed within 3 months. After receiving the inquiry report, the competent authority must pass the final order within 6 months. But they are pending for years, even after retirement. If these things are very simple, sir, we can improve, and we have to attract the youngsters into our benches. Then only, if we do not bring the proper vegetables, decomposed vegetables and rotten all the things, and you give to your family members to prepare a good food, it is impossible. That is what is actually happening from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, Gujarat to Assam. Assam pining cotton, sir. Nagaland and China, Arunachal Pradesh.
Okay.
The same
Thanks.
is the situation, and improving the forensic medicine services, medical legal services, both in the casualty and this. And you are all talking about how to improve the forensic science services. I am the collector of the evidence to send it for them to analysis. If I don't know how to collect, how to preserve, how are you going to expect this? And for DNA fingerprinting, how to collect, how to preserve, I don't know. Then how are you going to expect it? Earlier rule was in 1960 issued by the combined state of Andhra Pradesh. Any material that is preserved for chemical analysis or any laboratory analysis, that must reach within 24 hours the laboratory, excluding the time included needed for transportation. Existing rules, if we insist from them to be implemented, then they can do it.
Thank
And
you.
everything
Thank you,
can
Dr.
be-
Narayan. That's, I think 2 points emerge from his presentation. One is, how do we attract young doctors into forensic medicine specialization? It's a challenge in a country which is underserved in terms of medical care. And the second is the point made by Mr. Anjaneyya Reddy and many others. Expertise is not enough. Independence, accountability, regulation, and adequate safeguards, because we are dealing with life or death issues. May I now request Sri Kamal Kumar to make his points.
Thank you, Jayaprakash. Now, I must say right at the outset, like what my esteemed senior, Mr. Ram Mohan Rao said, I also got an entry into this panel through the trapdoor entry. Someone didn't turn up and I was asked to substitute. Anyway, so that is that. Another point, like what Mr. Ram Mohan mentioned, was about the contradictions that we have in this Indian society or Indian scenario. Like in Delhi, you have quoted, sir, the most sophisticated airports and bullock carts, they're coexisting almost side by side. So that kind of a scenario, when you were talking, came to my mind in the context of forensic science. The context was, when I was the director of the National Institute of Criminology and Forensic Science, there was some function relating to forensic science in Lucknow, and some press fellows, media, they contacted me and said, sir, tell me, all these lectures and speeches apart, tell me your own opinion, frankly, about what is the status, ground status of forensic science in India. I said, we are among the best and we are among the worst. He started laughing. So he said, how, sir? So I said, we are among the best because just then Rajiv Gandhi assassination case had taken place. And, a large number of people were convicted with, death sentence and so on and so forth. And it was all largely on the basis of forensic evidence, right? So if you cite that kind of a case anywhere in the world, they would say India is the best country as far as the use of forensic science in crime investigation is concerned. Then how come we are the worst? I said we are the worst because we recently conducted a survey and we found that we have only 3.81% of criminal cases that are referred to state forensic science laboratories. And that includes not just state forensic science laboratories cases, but also the cases that are referred to the fingerprint bureaus. In fact, the larger number, 2.78% or something, my memory doesn't, not that strong now, pertain to the FPB cases, fingerprint bureau cases. So very few cases are really referred to the forensic science thing. Now, Jayaprakash mentioned about the percentage having increased to 10 now. I don't know, but I have my doubts. I don't know if there is a survey of the kind that I got conducted in the year 1997 or 98 during my NICFS days. That was the survey which I got conducted under my personal supervision. And it was 3.8%, 3.78%. So that is the kind of a thing. Now the question, this seminar about effective utilization of forensic science to promote rule of law or to ensure rule of law, inclusive justice and that kind of a thing. I have, in the course of my 35 years of service and now 17 years of my retirement, I have come across or I have attended umpteen number of seminars like this, n numbers of seminars like this. The issue is, why this seminar then? In this context, I would like to quote what Justice Malimat said in his report. And in Justice Malimat, in his report on criminal justice reforms, he has said, he had quoted, in fact, some French thinker saying, everything has been said already, but as no one listens, we must always begin again. So the attempt today on the part of Dr. Gandhi and Professor Vice Chancellor of NALSAR is to again remind people that this is an important thing and therefore you have to think about it. Now, the question is, why is such a low kind of utilization level in forensic science, in crime investigation for forensic science? Now, as I said, the current level is only 3.81%. Now, the causes of inadequate use or utilization have to be very carefully analyzed and have also to be very sincerely addressed. Now, the early, easily traceable causes could be inadequate forensic science facilities in states in terms of ill-equipped, the laboratories that are there, they are ill-equipped and they are ill-staffed and that kind of a thing. There is inadequacy of equipment in terms of not availability or non-availability of all the required or requisite equipment, because they are, after all, very costly equipment, some of them, most of them, in fact. There is also the question of non-utilization on account of non-utilization of the existing equipment because of certain problems. I'll just come to it in a minute. Then another important cause for inadequate use of forensic science is inordinate delays in forensic analysis of cases, which serves as a disincentive for investigating officers to refer cases to forensic laboratories. Inadequate knowledge and awareness about forensic science among investigating officers is another very, very important cause. And then finally, I would say lack of coordination on a day-to-day basis between the police and the forensic science staff. That has been a very major problem. Coming to facilities of forensic science, the current status is, and I'm talking of some report which pertains to 2021, it said that there are now 37 forensic science laboratories with the states today. They're supposed to be, they're called as state forensic science laboratories, but obviously, as in the case of law universities, there are some states which have more than one state forensic science laboratory. So there are 37 of them. And there are 7 central forensic science laboratories in the country, and there are 29 fingerprint bureaus. This is, in addition to this, we have about 80 odd regional forensic science laboratories and about 450 or so number of the so-called mobile or district forensic science laboratories, as against 800 and odd police districts in the country. So that is the scenario. Well, no, sir, police districts are 809 or something, sir. 809, sir. So that is the situation. Obviously, these numbers are too grossly inadequate for the country's size and the volume of crime that the country has. After all, in the same year 2021, we have had 35 lakh IPC cases and more than 20 lakh cases of special and local laws of the country. Now, there's a big gap. Truth Labs is obviously a very pioneering initiative, which is obviously trying to seeking to fill the gap in a big way. But whatever they are doing or whatever their achievements, their contribution is just about a drop in the ocean. So that we have to realize. Now, coming to the manpower, sanction strength in government laboratories, as Jayaprakash mentioned, is just about 4,500 personnel. Not all of them are scientists. There's just about 3,000 scientists, and the rest are support staff. So that is that. Among this sanction strength, there is 40% vacancy. 40% posts are vacant. So imagine the numbers that are available. Now, the forensic scientist population ratio, I mean, it's popular nowadays to relate everything to population and working out ratios. Judges population ratio, police population ratio, doctor population ratio, and so on. So similarly, I try to do this forensic science population ratio, forensic scientist population ratio. It works out, to hold your breath, it works out to a paltry 0.33% per lakh of population. 0.33. That is for 3 lakh of population, you have 1 forensic scientist. So that is the scenario. And as against this, the situation in advanced countries is that they have 20 to 25 per lakh, per 100,000 population forensic scientists. So that is the scenario. And mind you, ladies and gentlemen, India is no longer a poor country. We are all heading to become, or at least trying to become and claiming to become, an advanced country ourselves. So that is the comparison. Now, the available laboratories, they are ill-equipped, as I mentioned. Non-availability of essential equipment is one aspect of it, and non-availability of funds for annual maintenance contracts of the available equipment, and availability of procurability of consumables is just not there in most of the cases. Why? Because most of this equipment has been purchased by the state laboratories under the Modernization of Police Forces Grant Scheme, and the scheme envisages that they can only the money can be only spent on capital items and not on consumables, etc. The states are supposed to provide for that, but the states do not bother about it. They don't have funds, they would say. So that is the kind of a thing. Yet another cause, because I'm talking about causes that are leading to such low application of low level of application of forensic science. One of the important causes is lack of updation of scientific knowledge and skills of forensic scientists themselves. After all, they are scientists, they have science degrees and all, but science is a highly evolving, highly everyday evolving kind of a subject. So there has to be regular updation of their knowledge and skills, and that's not possible. That's not possible because of 2 reasons. One is their own shortages of manpower, because if they go away for training, who will do the day-to-day work? Secondly, lack of training infrastructure in the country. When in NICFS, of course, now it's no longer NICFS, it's part of now National Forensic Science University, is just about one institution at the national level, and states do not have most of the. I mean, I don't know of any state which has a forensic science training institution. So that is the kind of scenario. Now, delays in analysis of cases, as I mentioned, is one of the very important reasons, and it's a disincentive for IOs to refer cases to forensic science laboratories. The estimated pendency, as Jayaprakash mentioned, is 7 to 8 lakh cases. Again, 2021 statistics. Even with so low level of referral of cases, this is the kind of scenario that we have. Now, non-availability of scientific investigation kits in police stations is yet another very important factor. I remember as a probationer in the year of the Lord 1971, we were given those investigation kits to see that they would be available in your police stations. And when I came to a progressive state like Andhra Pradesh and went to the police station, they were available. You know, they were briefcases in which all those small little items, these were all there. But today, leave aside Andhra Pradesh, which is a progressive state, and therefore things are much, much better here. You go to any other state, you hardly find this kind of investigation kits available in police stations, when number of investigation kits and the items in investigation kits have multiplied manifold since then. Now, I'm very sorry for painting a very dismal and a very dark picture about the whole scenario, but I thought realities have to be faced and therefore we must talk about them. Now, interestingly, all these ills that the forensic science sector suffers from have been identified from time to time in this country by high-level expert committees appointed by the government themselves, starting with the National Police Commission. You had the Rebaro Committee on Police Reform, you had Padmanabhaya Committee on Police Reform, you had the Administrative Reforms Commission, in which Jayaprakash himself was a member, you had the, there are so many, so on and so forth, there's no need to. There was the Model Police Act of 2006, Soli Sorabji Committee Act, I was a member of that committee, and you know, that gives a long list of things to be done and so on. Malimat Committee, yes, Malimat Committee has devoted quite a lot of its space on that. Now, there have been very valuable recommendations that have been made, but implementation has been to say in the best possible manner, I would say it has been very half-hearted implementation. So that is that. The question is, or the issue is that the problems are not all that insurmountable. Problems can be solved and solutions are not far to seek. We can always find them. For example, to meet with the shortage of forensic scientists, 80 odd universities and colleges in the country are churning out hundreds, if not thousands, of forensic science students every year with PG and UG and PG degrees in forensic science. Only a minuscule percentage or fraction among them get to join the forensic science profession. They join elsewhere, even as clerks and so on and so forth. So what use of increasing the number of universities and all that? The need is to modify the recruitment rules for the posts of forensic scientists, not just the posts of forensic scientists, but in allied organizations like the police, like judiciary, like prosecution. You give some kind of weightage to these people so that more and more of them can be absorbed, number one. And number two, and more importantly, their knowledge and skills can be gainfully utilized by the system. There is there's a lot of money being granted by the government of India, and there have been matching grants by the state governments under the modernization of police forces schemes, in which forensic science is one of the 4 most important pillars, right? A lot of money is available, but much of it goes unspent because, the sanctions will be given at the last minute and there would not be enough time for following all the procedure and all that. So what is needed is to ensure timely utilization of that money and efficacious utilization of that money. The money should not be wasted. I wouldn't like to waste your time, but I would like to just give one example. When I came back to the state after serving a tenure with Government of India, I think I'm talking of early 2000s and all that. I was handed over by the DYSP stores of our police headquarters a very sophisticated cell phone. So I said, Baba, why are you giving such a costly cell phone to me? I am a very poor technology handler, and I would need a dabba kind of a phone. That would be enough. He says, no, sir, a modernization grant mein aaya hai, and everyone is getting this. Even sub-inspectors have got this. Now, this is not efficacious utilization of the same MPF grants. So that is the thing. Now, and also the grants need to be enhanced many fold if we really have to take care. Then amendment of rules, as I said, not just for recruitment of science, forensic science personnel, but also for, this annual maintenance contract thing or consumable things. There's no point in Government of India, sticking to their stand that, no, you can't spend that money on your day-to-day expenditure, revenue expenditure. It can be spent only on capital items and so on. So that is the kind of a thing. Now, what is needed is very sincere and assiduous efforts to promote forensic science culture in the functioning of the police organization, the judicial services, and the prosecution, so that, more and more demand would be raised for forensic science and need for much more coordination between all the wings. So for all this, imaginative initiatives will be called for. Thank you very much for a very patient hearing.
Thank you, Kamal Kumar Saab, for your presentation with rich evidence and statistics. A reformer must have infinite patience, as Mahatma Gandhi said. None of the problems listed here is insurmountable. I'm absolutely certain about it. Yes, it takes some doing. If Andhra Pradesh under Mr. Anjaney Reddy could build an excellent police training institute, if AP and Telangana are now in the forefront of forensic science laboratories in the country, I don't see why other states cannot do. This is not part of some other continent. So yes, there are challenges, but I believe we can overcome. Now, if the two Chief Justices and the Governor and the Vice Chancellor approve, indulge me for 5 minutes. Let's give the kids a chance for 5 minutes, 3 questions. Then I'll request Mr. Umapati to sum up and then propose a very brief vote of thanks without mentioning any names. Okay. Shoot, here is a chance. You won't have a chance of Chief Justices and Governors and others listening to you. Come on. Okay, yes, please.
Hello. Thank you so much, sir, for this opportunity. Very quickly, so I am at Project 39A, which is a criminal justice initiative based out of National Law University, Delhi. And until very recently, Professor Rao was under his stewardship, we were doing a project on forensics where we surveyed the forensic science laboratories in the country. And it's from that experience that I address the gathering here. And I'd firstly like to say that amongst the many things that we've observed, having collected a lot of quantitative information from the labs about their budget and funding, precisely about their what is their case pendency right now, the recruitment. So we have all of that numbers. But along with that, what we also did as part of our survey, we went and visited the labs and actually interacted with the scientists to understand from them what are their daily challenges. And much of what has been said, I don't want to reiterate, but one major point that I just wanted to say in my 2 minutes was, I think that what we need to recognize first and foremost in terms of understanding all of these administrative and functional challenges is the fact that what the direct impact that has is on the quality of forensic science services. And what we probably need to inject into this discussion about the pendency in our labs or the vacancy in our labs or the lack of infrastructure is the fact that why this needs to be corrected is because it is having an impact on the quality of every single case that is being processed by the labs. And that is something that all of the scientists unanimously agreed with. And that's the concern that they wanted to raise. So the point that I just want to make is that possibly us as to think about solutions towards this. One is obviously having a good regulator. The second, I think, is also where us as legal practitioners, both as lawyers as well as judges, if we were to find out and create clear standards that forensics, that every single type of forensic science discipline has to follow, and what it means to do correct quality control and quality assurance, which is something that is now coming out in many of the Supreme Court decisions, and very recently last year as well, the court saying that even in cases of DNA profiling, we have to ensure the strict adherence to quality control and quality assurance, and only then should that evidence be reliable and should be relied upon by judges. I think that is the effect that we need to trigger the conversation in the labs and by the regulators of the labs to ensure that the top standards are met. So that was my brief intervention.
Thank you, Sharja. Okay, any quick questions, anybody? Yes. Justice Chandraya Garu, the chairman of the.
Corruption and crime cannot be eradicated but controlled, correct? Now there are, what you have referred to is the conduct rules. Other than the conduct rules, who violate the rules, against whom the disciplinary action can be initiated. What do you suggest the other methods for making the doctors to be accountable?
It's a short note, not an essay question.
Sir, yes, sir, yes.
And youngsters, if you're ready with 1 or 2 questions, yes, please.
Sir, it is local monitoring system in the institution based that controls the corruption to the maximum extent, indiscipline and indifferent attitude. The going up, that is different. But initially this system is introduced, corruption will control. And I can say that with my personal experience, when I was for 5 years, 1 month as a head of the department, the corruption rate had come almost negligible to in my department at Usmania, because we had a regulatory systems, information system. My system was don't block the information from whichever source it comes. It may be from an attender or a news reporter. Without revealing, inquire it, control it. Once they come to know, it will go to the notice of the head, then they themselves control, sir. It is not a difficult thing.
So in short, pick the right leaders, give them autonomy. Okay. Youngsters, no curiosity or you're too hungry? The elders should complain. 5 seconds. Okay, to Mr. Umapati. Mr. Umapati for a quick
brief,
summary
yeah,
and a 1-line vote of thanks.
Okay, sir. And these, I think we have summed up, Honorable Chair, and then the other esteemed speakers. We have summed up the whole process, saying that there are process difficulties, there are expert opinion amendments that is required. In the expert amendment required, already 293 CRPC says who are all the experts. Section 45 says what is expert opinion. Section 65B says what is the electronic evidence. Section 65B clause 4 says how to validate the electronic evidence. And there are set now new POCSO rules say who are all the other experts. And Juvenile Justice Act says who are all other experts. But these experts are not brought into Section 293 CRPC. So why this, one of our Anjana Reddy sir said, these are all so many experts, but they're not brought into 293 CRPC. They're all into different acts, they're different experts, but they're not brought into under one umbrella. So that's one important point that has come, sir. A second important point is annual maintenance contract. And it's a small money, AMC and a regular maintenance. If that is what is called all or none law. If I want to walk, I should walk. If I still want to gain weight, let me not walk. So I'll gain weight. So that's called all or none law. And then let us have that small AMC tailored for 5 years into the system, so that annual maintenance contract and the regular consumables like DNA kits, consumables. Now that the law is amended under section 173 1A, saying that within 2 months you have to investigate the case, and 309 it says speedy trial, and already POCSO Act says speedy trial, and now the 2018 amendment says within 2 months you have to complete this, 2 months trial of not 309, and even High Court has to dispose of within 6 months. The all these timelines have come in this last 2 amendments, major amendments, but these timelines also correlate with the forensic evidence. This say 2 months evidence gathering is also correlates with forensic evidence. So that's also another very important point that has come here. The another important point that has been brought out here by our Honorable President of the Bar Association is that the forensic auditing, the need for multidisciplinary teams. It's a forensic audit, it's a big domain. Suppose, for example, if you take Telangana, the whole property lost in theft is not more than 800 crores, but the kind of the defrauding of banks, etc., is more than 8,000 crores. So the percentage wise, the white collar crime has become a big jump, but our 415 definition has not changed. 420 definition has not changed, but we have other multi-level marketing. So many other things have come up. And now our IOs are all confused because the main acts, the basic act, IPC, CRPC, Evidence Act are Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva for our police officers. But if you say you want to have Subramanya, you want to have Ganapati, you want to have all other acts, our people are not willing to understand the nitty-gritty of those acts. So let 415 IPC be changed. Let 420 be elaborated to bring in lot of other these new types of financial frauds which have been played. Only then the police officer will investigate. Let me tell you, sir, if you say, I've got AP Depositors Act, I've got another act, I've got multi-level marketing act, I have this act, that act, this act. So many acts is confused because I deal every day with training. I'm a trainer. So I feel that basic law should be amended. Basic 293, it should be amended. I put all the experts into one go in the 293 and put all this evidence, substantive evidence. Yes, now the High Court of Andhra Pradesh on the combined states given, whenever an expert comes, his record evidence should be recorded by the lower court. That was a very good thing. Later on, our experts were going, their evidence was recorded the first time. So when official evidence has to be recorded, let it be recorded very first time. So these kind of things that will facilitate people. And another last point that has come up in this is that the chain of custody, how important it is, how to preserve, how to take care of all the samples. And finally, all wings one commissioner. I think like Germany, I was with the Bavarian police. In Bavarian police, they have all wings are one commissioner, and their courts start at 7:30 a.m. In Germany, the court start. We went to one court at 7:30 a.m. The first case was heard, and 7:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. India, we start the courts at 10:30. So you say that so much pendency is there, but we start the courts very late. So you want Abba and Abba Kavali, Buva Kavali. That means we want my grand Abba also should be there, Buva should be there. We can't have both of them together. So that's what it is. That's my point. Not that said, let us start the court at least 9:30 a.m. If you start at 9:30 a.m., perhaps a lot of cases can be heard, and lot of leverage, like FOXO Act, it says no leverage can be given to the defense counsel. He has to give the questions to the judge, and judge would say that this question is admissible, non-admissible. Maybe it's under the 113A or 53A IPC or say 151 or 152 Evidence Act. He would look into that. So that kind of thing has come. And finally, government should be authorized to announce who are all experts. So that will come only by amendment to CRPC. So thank you, sir. I've not more than 2 minutes, 20 seconds. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I don't think any formal vote of thanks is required. Thank you, everybody, particularly the patient, young people, except that I'm disappointed that you're not participating in the discussion. Either you are bamboozled by your teachers and the vice chancellor. He must have put in the fear of God into you, but a little more of participation and thought that's necessary. I wish you all the very best. Let's now adjourn for lunch. Thank you.